Historically, several civilizations have prospered, notably along the banks of the mighty river Euphrates, and one of its most dominant civilizations is the Mesopotamian Empire. Old Mesopotamia was located between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, which is recognized as the Fertile Crescent. The Great Euphrates River flows down approximately 1,740 miles and is also the longest in Western Asia. And even though the fraction of humans living there has considerably changed the landscape in most areas of the Euphrates basin, remnants of the historical flora still survive. But there's a new discovery in this river that has baffled the scientists. Hello and welcome back to the Abandoned Archaeologist, the channel to learn all about ancient archaeological findings. Today we will discuss the discovery of the Euphrates River and how it is changing the world. But before we begin, to get your attention, we have a question you can answer at the end of the video by watching it. What civilization exists between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates? Write down your answer in the comment section and see if you got it right. Here we begin with the video. The Euphrates River is the westernmost of Mesopotamia's two great rivers, the other being the Tigris. The two rivers originate within 50 miles of each other in eastern Turkey and flow southeast through northern Syria and Iraq to the Persian Gulf. They form a massive river system in the Middle East's alluvial salt marsh ecoregion. The rivers have several small tributaries that feed shallow freshwater lakes, swamps, and marshes surrounded by desert. The hydrology of these vast marshes is critical to the ecology of the Upper Persian Gulf, known as the cradle of civilization because of its ancient history. History of the Euphrates. The Euphrates provided the water that fueled Sumer's first flowering of civilization around the 4th millennium BCE. Mari, Sippar, Nippur, Shuruppak, Uruk, Ur, and Eridu were all important ancient cities located on or near the river. The river valley was central to the later empires of Babylonia and Assyria. For centuries, the river served as the eastern limit of effective Egyptian and Roman control and the western border of the Persian Empire. In addition, the Battle of Karbala, a watershed moment in Islamic history in which Imam Hussein and his family and friends were martyred, took place on the banks of the Euphrates River. Concerns. The river once split into many channels at Basra, forming a vast marshland. They once covered 15,000 to 20,000 square kilometers and were a fine and extensive natural wetlands ecosystem developed over 1,000 years in the Tigris-Euphrates basin. However, Saddam Hussein's regime destroyed 60% of the wetlands in 1994. They were drained to allow military access and greater political control over the indigenous marsh Arabs. Instead of allowing the water to flow slowly through the marshes, canals, dikes, and dams were built to route the water from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers around them. After a section of the Euphrates was dried up due to its water being rerouted to the sea, a dam was built to prevent the water from backing up from the Tigris and sustaining the former marshland. Some marshlands were burned, and underground pipes carried away water to allow faster drying. The drying of the marshes resulted in the extinction of salt-tolerant vegetation. These plankton-rich waters fertilized surrounding soils, 52 native fish species, wild boar, red fox, buffalo, and marsh-water birds. As with the Tigris, there is considerable debate about the river's rights and use. The Southeastern Anatolia project in Turkey entails the construction of 22 dams and 19 power plants, making it the country's largest development project to date. The Turkish government hopes the project will boost the region's economy, but domestic or foreign critics have questioned its benefits and the scheme's social and environmental costs. In Syria, the Tabaka Dam creates Lake Assad, which is used to irrigate cotton. Syria has dammed 2 of its tributaries and is currently building a 3rd. Iraq has 7 operational dams, but water management was a low priority during Saddam Hussein's regime. However, water use has come back to the fore since the fall of Ba'ath Iraq in 2003. Due to the water scarcity in the Middle East, Iraq is constantly concerned that Syria and Turkey will consume most of the water before reaching Iraq. In addition, irrigation in southern Iraq leaves little water to adjoin the Tigris at the Shatt al-Arab. Islamic prophecies. Some hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad in Islam suggest that the Euphrates will dry up, revealing unknown treasures that will cause strife and war. But soon, the Euphrates River will reveal the treasure, the Gold Mountain. So whoever is present at that time should make no assumptions. According to the Prophet Muhammad, the hour will not arrive until the Euphrates River has dried up, revealing the mountain of gold for which people will fight. 99 men will die in the fighting, and each man will think to himself, perhaps I'll be the only one who survives. Euphrates in the Bible. According to Genesis 2:14, one of the 4 rivers that flow from the Garden of Eden is the Perath, Hebrew for Euphrates. This Hebrew word, which can be translated as stream or to break forth, has been translated as the Euphrates. It is the 4th river to form from the river flowing out of the garden, following the Pishon, Gihon, and Tigris. Hebrew name is Hiddekel. The same named river defined one of the borders of the land promised by God to Abraham and his descendants through Isaac and Jacob. It is referred to simply as the river in the Hebrew Bible. On that day, the Lord said to Abraham that, "To your descendants I give this land, from the Egypt River to the great river, the Euphrates." As per the Bible, God creates the Euphrates. Tigris is the name of the 3rd river, which flows east of Ashur, therefore the Euphrates is the 4th river. God tells the Israelites to go to the Promised Land. Start out and make your way to the Amorites and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, the Shephelah, the seacoast, the Negeb, and the land of the Canaanites. God, through Moses, promises the Israelites the Promised Land. Every location where you set your feet shall be yours. Your borders shall extend from the wilderness to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the western sea. Deuteronomy 11:24. The Euphrates is prophesied to dry up in preparation for the Battle of Armageddon in Revelation 16:12. And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the Euphrates, and the water there was dried up, so that the way for the eastern kings might be prepared. Discovery: Dead Sea coming to life. One of Ezekiel's famous prophecies, widely believed to be allegorical rather than literal, may be about to come true, just as he predicted 2,600 years ago. In a nutshell, life has been discovered at the Dead Sea. Fresh water flows into this Rift Valley expanse, which has not been able to support life since the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah numerous years ago, and is now only useful for attracting tourists who want to sample its healing properties while floating unsupported. Freshwater fish have been spotted swimming in the sinkholes that have opened up recently as the sea, which is 33% salt, has receded. The return of freshwater life to the Dead Sea shores may not be a complete fulfillment of Ezekiel's extraordinary vision, but it certainly heralds the fulfillment to come. You can be certain that every prophecy in the Bible will be fulfilled in the letter. Approximately 3/4 of Ezekiel's prophecies and 81% of all the Bible. Consider his prediction of Tyre's demise. He predicted that the eastern Mediterranean fishing port would be demolished and thrown into the sea, and that the bare rock where it once stood would become a place for fishermen to dry their nets. Moreover, when Alexander the Great marched down to Egypt with his great army, the Tyre's people simply sailed to the island half a mile offshore, acknowledging that Alexander had an army but no navy. When Alexander saw this, he ordered that every brick, stone, and piece of wood in the city be used to construct a causeway to the island, after which his army crossed and defeated the people of Tyre. Fishermen's nets are still spread out on the rock of old Tyre, similar to what Ezekiel predicted, while the modern city is out on the island and is silted up against Alexander's causeway. You'd better believe it if it's in the Bible. We can be certain that God is returning to the holy city because the end of this prophetic book tells us that it will be called "The Lord is There," a wonderful thought echoed in Charles Wesley's hymn on Christ's return, which includes the majestic line, "God appears on earth to reign." A river of life flowing from God's throne is also depicted on the final page of the Bible in the book of Revelation, which is all about what will happen in the days leading up to the second coming. The biblical symbolism of the resurrection of the dead pertains to both Israel and their Messiah. Some people believe we're living in historic times that may herald the return of our Lord, and they would tell you to keep an eye out and pray so that you and your loved ones aren't caught off guard. Let us know what you think, and the answer to the question we've asked is Mesopotamia. Share the video and subscribe now.